Hello, everybody. I believe we're live streaming. It's so good to have everybody with us tonight. And Terry, I got a text from the coffee shop people down in Florida. Should I call them coffee shop people? Coffee shop folk down in Florida. And they got 18 sitting around a coffee table tonight listening to what is about to transpire. So we're so glad to have them. Haven't heard from the Georgia folks yet, but those others of you that's listening by Power Faith Radio, we're so glad to have you tonight. And please just get you a pencil and piece of paper and get ready. And now you can come on before I go to the Facebook groups and the YouTube group. I'm going to tell you how you can come into our Zoom room or watch us live. That's the folks on Power Faith Radio, because you're just hearing us. You can go to one of two Facebook groups. You can go to A Simple Walk, which is a public group, and there you'll find the link for all the places on social media and the link to the Zoom room. And those of you also can go to B'nai Noach Fellowship, which is a private group, and you can ask to join that group, and we'll kind of look at your joining and have you come on in. And you can also find all the ways to view us there. It's sponsored tonight by Outreach Noah, and you can find that at Outreach Noah YouTube channel. And please, when you just type in Outreach Noah, when it comes up, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. You can also find us at outreachnoah.com, outreachnoah.com, and you'll find some interesting things about us there. And let's see, I'm going to do one more, Terry. outreachnoah@gmail.com. You can email us there, outreachnoah@gmail.com. And I'm sorry I haven't been over there this week to check the email, but I may check that here before the program is over tonight, so we can see if anybody sent us anything through there. So, Terry, if you want to pick up from there and take off a little bit, I may jump over there and check that real quick.
You want me to take off, leave?
No, just take off on talking. I'm speaking Townsend. I'm speaking Townsend, and you're speaking Chattanooga. So
Oh, I thought you told me to take off. I said, okay, I'll leave.
That's almost like the guy said, I just flew in from New Mexico, and boy, my arm's tired.
Yeah, I'm telling you. All righty. Welcome, everyone. I'm not going to go through the whole list that Scotty does. He's got the list pretty long now. I'm a short fella, and it's longer than my leg already and everything. But I just want to greet everyone. Thank you for joining us on our Wednesday night class and hanging in there with us. Here in the Zoom room tonight, of course, we've got Scotty and Amuela, and Thomas, Ronald, Wendell, and Scotty's better half, Annie, here in the Zoom room. And like Scotty said, if anyone wants to come into the Zoom room, you're welcome. Come on in. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to. You can just leave it off and just be part of the live group. We have several that does that from time to time. And I haven't seen or heard from Veronica. I'm hoping everything's okay with her. She's back up, and I think in Calgary with her mom and everything. So she's been trying to make it, but she's probably busy up there helping her mom out. And so just want to thank everyone again for coming. Tonight we're going to, I'm going to be going over the chapter 15 in the Divine Code. We're going to be looking at the laws of ownerless and lost items and things. Well, we're going to start it. We're not going to be able to cover the whole thing tonight, but we're going to get it started. Over the last few days, actually since last weekend, I've been just meditating and pondering on some stuff, and I've just talked about it in the past, about probably even several times, even when we were over on the B'nai Noach Connection with Israel group. I don't know if I've talked about it a little bit, but I've been doing some more studying, a little more reading on it, and I'm thinking about here in a couple of weeks, pull off of the study of theft for a little bit, and Scotty and I, in a kind of a conversational style class, I'm being kind of the subject of the flood with the Noah and how it relates to us today has been kind of restirring in me, and I've been looking at some things. I've gone back and looked into some more commentary that gets into the Hebrew, breaks the Hebrew down has brought out some stuff that I hadn't brought out in the past. So if you're interested in that, here in a few weeks, we may take us a little bit of a break from the study of theft and go back and look at the flood and how it relates to you and I today in real life rubber meets the road understanding of what the Creator is telling us through what all happened there. Scotty, you about ready?
I'm ready. I did go over and check our Gmail, and we haven't had any this week. But again, if you want to ask questions and you're listening via the radio or any other way, you can just email us with a question at outreachnoah@gmail.com. Here comes Chrissy Seaton in. It's always good to see her. All right. We're going to get into our Tzedakah time tonight. We so much appreciate everybody that's participating and has participated in this time. We thank you so much. Now I want to relay again, please. I did get a text from somebody this week, thought, I want to add somebody's name, but I don't have anything to give you for tzedakah. And I said, that's not what it's about. Please send us the names, and we have the means here, the available to do that tzedakah time. And please just send us those names, and we will go from there. All right. So our first list on the tzedakah tonight is always our teacher, Terry and I's main teacher, and his wife. That's Pesach and Shira Sherbo. And by the way, happy birthday to Pesach. He had a birthday this past week, so we're giving tzedakah for them. And then also Wendy Shepherd. We're keeping Wendy on our tzedakah list. She's going through some medical issues, so we're going to keep her on our tzedakah list. Also, Warwick Marshall. Have you heard anything, Ronald, lately, or you, Chrissy, about Warwick? Unmute, Chrissy. I believe you're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Warwick has already had one lot of surgery, and he had the removal of, I think it was his left eye. He's now home out of hospital, recuperating at his mother's house, and he's in fairly good spirits. When he's fully recovered from the ocular surgery, he will then have to go back and have another lesion removed from his skull, from the brain. But they did the eye surgery first, so he's not out of the woods yet. But I see that he's reading some of the things and watching some of the things on Facebook and that. So he's doing the best he can at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to continue to have him on our tzedakah list. Also, Joe and Evelyn Seal, we're keeping them on our tzedakah list. Also want to say, Amuela, somebody always sends in $1. It's your dollar going into our tzedakah list, and thank you so much for that. And also, they send in for Veronica Port. We thank them so much. And also, they send in for you, Thomas Schaus. We're putting tzedakah in from you into the tzedakah list. Now we're let's see, where did I get to on my list here? We've got Veronica's mother still on our list tonight, Marge Port, and keeping her on there. And Mary Parsons. Wendell, how's Mary doing?
She's doing well. She's coming along well. If she didn't have to shovel so much snow, she'd be doing even better.
Okay. So how much snow you got up there, Wendell?
Our area here immediately around us is somewhere between 6 to 8 inches. Some of the hills got about 18 to 20.
Okay, we're definitely going to keep her on the tzedakah list if she's shoveling that snow. So, all right. Also, we've got Ronald Dickman. We're still got him on the tzedakah list. I'm talking about you like you're in a third party. How you doing, Ronald?
Yeah, I'm okay at the moment. It won't be next week.
You got something going next week?
Yeah, I run out of a medication that's become unavailable.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I've got 6 days worth left, and they say it's supposed to be available again at the end of the month. But when this happened last time, it pushed out for another 2 months again. But at that time, I was able to replenish it because it was at the start of finding out it wasn't available. It's been 3 months ago it became unavailable, and I didn't know till I put a script in the other week. So it's not available anywhere.
Well, we're definitely going to keep you on the Tzedakah list for that. It's hard to imagine how they could just say, okay, we're going to stop running this valuable medication for a while, and we'll pick it up again in 6 months. So that's all I got to say about that. It just doesn't seem. We're going to keep you on the Tzedakah list, Ronald. So also, we've got my wife on the Tzedakah list tonight, Dolores Helton, and I had to go run her to the clinic today a little bit. She's got a couple issues, and I went to the pharmacy to pick up the medication, and we don't have any insurance or anything, and the pharmacist come out and first told me the price, and I had to I said, excuse me. So she said, well, wait a minute, let me see what I can do with it. And so she started messing around. Well, while she was trying to work with the cost of it, I got to talk. I don't know if any of you realize that I love to talk. And so I got to tell my story, and I thought I was just talking to the pharmacist, but apparently I was talking to everybody in the pharmacy. And I was telling the story how I lost her when we had our first child, and when I got to the punchline, said it was the first one I went to, and luckily that was her. Everybody just started dying laughing. Said, oh, good, we so I drew quite a crowd there while I was telling that story. So as I was leaving, people were saying, "Tell your honey we said hello." So. So anyway, I did find her. We'll have to tell all about that later. But we've got her on the Tzedakah list. Also got my daughter, Pamela Helton, on the Tzedakah list tonight. Also, William and Tina Lyons is on our Tzedakah list tonight. We're going to go to our blessed memory tonight. And now, last week I saw where Fred Rawls had posted something about his mother, and I meant to write it down and get a hold of him. I did send him a text, but he mentioned something about, what was it, Thomas? A birthday, blessed memory.
He said, "Happy heavenly birthday."
Okay, so we're giving blessed memory tzedakah in her merit tonight. Also giving tzedakah a blessed memory tonight for Thomas's mother, Sheila Schaus, and also giving blessed memory tonight for Tom Vanderhoof. We're giving blessed memory tzedakah for him as well. And let me get this. Suddenly my screen went blank here. So help us pray tonight, would you, for a blessing on this tzedakah time. Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you ready to get started? And I'm going to do some business here on the other end while you're doing that. And I'll put you on speaker view, and we'll go from there.
All righty. Again, greetings, everyone, and welcome back to our Outreach Noah Wednesday class. We've been going through and studying the prohibition of theft. We've had some questions come in. We were going to do a question and answer kind of thing and touch some of these, so I decided to go ahead and just do some class on quite a few of the questions that's come in on this particular subject. We won't cover it all tonight, but we're going to get started on it. So if there's something you think about that you would like for us to bring about and discuss pertaining to this subject, just like Scotty said, you can email us at outreachnoah@gmail.com, or you can message Scotty through the Power Faith radio station, and also the chats in the Simple Walk and B'nai Noah Fellowship groups. You can contact both of us in those ways. But tonight we're going to start looking at, we've had quite a few questions on, what if I find something? We've talked a little bit about it in the past, but there's actually there are laws, well, some divine laws, the way we should act morally in this, according to the Torah and the way the Creator would have us be as human beings. So we're looking at chapter 15 in the Divine Code, the laws of ownerless items and finding lost objects. Scotty, can you hear me okay? I got my mic adjusted a little bit different tonight. Got a little higher so I don't hit it so much when I'm reading. It starts out in the first part here. It says, a person may declare any item or money that they possess to be ownerless, which he does by removing it from his property and saying this item is ownerless. At that point, his jurisdiction leaves from the item, and any person who wishes to claim it may do so. He need not necessarily mention that with his mouth, as long as his actions shows that he does not desire the item anymore. To become ownerless, such as an item lying in an open access public garage heap, like trash and dumpsters, anything like that. But also like it'll probably mention here down the road, but something that's really popular in our area, especially around areas where there's colleges, and people will set items out next to the driveway. They'll sometimes will put a sign on it that says free, or they'll set something. Maybe it's a chair, and maybe to them they don't want it anymore. Maybe it's broken or something, and you're free to pick that up. You go, oh, I'm going to take that, and I can repair that and use that. And if it's been set out like that, you are permitted, because it becomes ownerless. The owner no longer wants it, so it has no owner, and you can take those items, and it's not considered theft. And if you have something that you desire that you don't want anymore, you want to set it out aside, you can declare that ownerless as well. Likewise, a person can declare his land or house ownerless through abandoning them and leaving them deserted and open for all. Then anyone who wishes to lay claim to the house or the land may do so. I don't know of a case that's ever happened here, but it might have happened in the past, and maybe in other countries something like that might happen. How can a person lay claim to an ownerless item? If he wishes to acquire a movable object once he raises it from the ground or takes it into his property, he has acquired it. Remember, theft, when we remember theft, is the act of secretly taking a movable item from your neighbor or another person, like pickpocketing, just left my mind, shoplifting, or if you see, your neighbor's shovel leaning against the wall and you want it, and you go over and decide to take it. Theft is secretly taking. Robbery is violently removing a movable object from someone, whether like holding up someone in armed robbery and different things like that, or fighting someone and taking their belongings from them in a violent way. That's robbery. But theft is technically the removing of a movable object. When it gets into immovable objects like land, and there's a lot of discussion today because of technology, and you have things like pictures on Facebook and different things like that. There's a lot of discussion, even amongst rabbis, on some things when it's dealing with the things that we have today. We have a lot of immovable objects that can be considered theft by taking them, even though you've not really actually removed it. We'll be getting into some of that in the future.
Hey, Terry.
Go ahead.
I apologize, but when you're reading from the Divine Code.
I'm reading from the Divine Code, 4th edition.
Could you state the page number?
Okay, page
you're
number, page 630. Thank you. Chapter 15, 630. Page 630. With Torah law, one can only acquire abandoned land or property through an act of manifestating ownership. This is accomplished by doing any positive benefit action that is recognized as demonstrating one's jurisdiction over the property, such as fencing in a plot of land or making use of an open and existing fence, or fixing a lock on the door of a house. Now that's still, I know in some places out west in the United States, there's a few places you can still do what's called homesteading. Back when our country was forming, you could homestead. You go out somewhere, you drive some stobs up on the land, and you put yourself up a boundary of some sort, and you could claim that land as yours. There's some places that I have heard that they do open from time to time for homesteading purpose, where you can go in and claim a piece of the land, which makes that legal. It's not theft. It says, however, if there is a law made by the government that one can only have jurisdiction over landed property with a document or registered filing for the asset under his name, this law is binding, and until this has been accomplished, there can be no complete legal jurisdiction. So it's telling you can't just walk in to somebody's farm and, maybe it's an older couple, they've got 70 acres sitting there and they're never using it, don't have no cattle, they don't grow anything. That doesn't mean you can just walk in and take a piece of it, because that land is still theirs. If they want to sell it to you, or if they want to give it to you, in certain laws, they have to deed it to you. You have to have a deed. It's like the house that I bought, the first house I bought, it had to be worked on. I bought it from a guy who bought it from a bank, and it turned out after I'd gotten it and I was getting the title and everything over in my name, there was a family that had like the whole back half of this area. We're talking about 20, 30 acres. They all had it and they lived there, and they all built houses on it. And then later on, there was some property lines drawn, and the house that I had bought the property line had never been corrected. And so my house sat directly on the property line on one side, which it cannot do that. It has to be off so many feet off the property line. So I had to buy, I think it was 33 feet from the side of my house. And I ended up having to buy about 1.6 acres from my neighbor to correct that property line to make it legal. Which wasn't bad. I ended up with about 7 acres out of that, and I had a great neighbor that didn't need the land, because you're only looking at 30-something feet, and it was wooded, and there was nothing between him and I but just trees and brush. But there are times like that you have to, you end up with a situation where you've got to make things right according to the property lines. You can't just say, I'm going to take that, I'm going to make it right myself. There's laws, in our countries that sets up, deeding and property lines and boundaries, and we are required to follow those laws. Any of the laws we're required to follow according to our governments, as long as they don't violate the law of God. And then that's where it starts getting a little bit hairy when you're having to deal with something like that. But generally speaking, when you're dealing with property, nothing like that violates, because boundaries has been something that the Creator started out with in Genesis chapter 2. And so boundaries is actually a good thing that we need to learn. One who sees at the bottom of page 30, and we're fixing to go to 631, says one who sees an item that can be acquired or a lost object and only calls out, I wish to acquire it, or similar statement, does not gain jurisdiction over that. Just because you see something like that, you can't just say you're going to claim that. The only way to establish ownership are described. Okay, and it says here in 16. Let's just jump over here to 16:6 and let's take a look at that real quick. I'll look at it on page 649. Says any object, number 6, paragraph 6 on page 649 says any object that was previously ownerless or lost that a person finds within 4 cubits or 6 feet of himself belongs to him, provided that he intends to acquire it, even if he has not yet picked it up. This is a rabbinical enactment that was made for the sake of the peace of the world. Once a person is standing close to an ownerless item or object that he desires, although he has not technically done so by action to acquire it, the object, he has already established in his mind that he has acquired it. If anyone else would then step up and take it, this would begin a quarrel. And now we're looking at theft. Therefore, the second person may not take it at that point. If he does, he must return it to the first person. That doesn't happen that often, but we have laws for those things that just in case it does happen and I like how Rabbi Weiner put it, for the peace of the world. There are things that we have, these laws, a lot of it is part of our duties as the non-Jewish creation of God, the what we call the Noahide nations, the children of Noah. We are enacted to go and settle the world, to do it peaceful and harmony and in morality. And so a lot of these laws that we have to follow, these are our laws, has nothing to do with the religion, has to do nothing with ritual and holidays. It has everything to do with right living with man and with God in a right and peaceful manner.
Terry, if I can jump in
Go
here.
ahead.
This resonated with a couple of people when you said about the peace of the world. Having peace in the world. That's what a lot of our actions are forward to, correct? That's what we're out to do.
The majority of the seven commandments we are given. The seventh one was given to Noah after the flood, and that's part of the why it's called Noahide laws, because it was 7 and got wrapped up with him. 2 of them, the first 2, the prohibition of idolatry and the prohibition of blasphemy, deals with our relationship with the Creator, one-on-one with Him. Now, the rest of them, the other 5, deals directly with us, one-on-one, one to another. And when we observe these, it brings peace and harmony. Prohibition of murder, prohibition of theft, prohibition of forbidden sexual relations, the prohibition of eating meat from a living animal. Well, what's that got to do? Well, that's when God gave us the permission to eat with Noah after the flood. We are not permitted to eat meat taken from an animal that is still living. It has to be 100% dead. Okay, from that, the sages of Israel has deducted, and we learn, we get our environmental laws. How does God tend for us to take care of the creation? It has to do with ever min chai. You don't eat meat taken from a living animal because that's cruel. And so we learn from that we are to treat the creation, how we treat the animals, how we treat the trees and the earth itself. Matter of fact, my Jewish friends, they have one of the things I learned when I was studying with them, they have a principle is when you're walking down the road, you don't even pluck a leaf from a tree unless you have a purpose for it. If you don't have a purpose for it, leave it alone. And so that brings peace in the world, when we start living by these rules that the Creator wants us to do and to live by, we don't steal from our fellow. We don't murder our fellow. We don't have improper sexual relations with our fellow. We follow the biblical guidelines when it comes to marriage and sexual relations. We don't destroy the earth's resources. It's animals. When we eat meat, we do it properly. That is our kosher law. We have one kosher law. The animal must be 100% dead before we consume any meat from it. And then, like I said, from there we have our environmental laws. All this brings peace in the world. You got all these people out there fighting over all this. This is a red button. All this climate change and all this stuff. We wouldn't be doing all of that if we followed these simple rules. Because, as a matter of fact, one of the very first blogs I wrote back around 2010, 2011 was man in the earth. And in my studies at the time, I need to probably go through and do a rewrite on it. In my studies at the time, the rabbis showed from some of the passages in Genesis where man was to be praying for the rain because there was no man, man wasn't there to pray for the rain, so the rain hadn't come down yet. The rabbis have seen in the words of the Creator that when man distances himself from the Creator, the earth distances itself from man. When man draws back to the Creator and walks in his ways, the earth turns back to man and works with him. So there's no environmental problems that we have that could not be corrected if we would correct our walk with the Creator. And it's there in Genesis. And so when we do this and we bring peace, when a nation is living by peace, you'd be surprised what's happening in that nation. The crops are flourishing, the different things are flourishing. And if a nation is evil, look what happens. Even the Creator takes land away from an evil people. That's why some of the nations you read about in history doesn't exist anymore. They were so evil that God brought in another people to take the land away from. When you walk in evil, when a nation is evil and wicked, they don't deserve the land they live on. See, God gives us the land. He gave Israel its land. He gives each one of us our land. And if we do not act accordingly, it will be taken away from us and given to someone else. I mean, in essence, that's what happened with Israel. God promised it to Abraham's descendants, but it was the Canaanites that was so evil. If you read, it says, and the sin of the Canaanites became full. He did not give it to Israel until they didn't deserve the land anymore. And that's happened throughout history when you see, countries in history that doesn't exist anymore. It's because they lost the right to own it. How do we have the right to own our land? We walk in these divine moral behavioral laws, just like this. Learning, if I find something, right now we're looking at ownerless, and this helps out to be able to understand what's considered ownerless. And if you have a question whether if something is ownerless, if you see a chair sitting out next to the road, stop and ask the owner, you throwing this away? It'd be a proper thing to do. But if something is sitting out next to the trash can, it's considered ownerless. The owner has no longer claimed it. It has no value to them.
So, Terry, Veronica's listening, by the way, of A Simple Walk.
All right.
She's got a question she put in. I think it's a pretty good question. If someone buys an item at a garage sale, finds a good sum of money, let's just say any sum of money, in the item, does that money belong to the seller or to the buyer?
That is actually an excellent question. Actually, the rabbis even deal with that. I believe where somebody had bought a field and found something in it. Right now, off the top of my head, that is a subject that is covered. And I hadn't got that far. I have studied. It's just been a while. I'm actually going through a lot of this. I'm renewing things. It's been a few years since I've studied. If they bought it, it's theirs. I'm pretty sure it's theirs, because there's the part of what this deals with is if, hold on, I looked at, there's a term that's used, may have been in what I was looking at last week. There's another term that's actually used when like the owner has forgotten about it and has considered it gone. And I can't remember if it was in this lesson because I do so much reading.
Well,
Veronica, that is actually an excellent question, which we will cover because it is covered. And
That's
that's
what I was gonna
Chrissy,
say.
I know you've gone through some of these. Do you know that one real quick? Because I know you've just recently did some teachings on.
You're muted, Chrissy. Unmute if you was wanting to talk there.
Yes, look, there is a word, and it's in common law, like law of the land, and I can't for the life of me think of it, but it's a word that concludes a phrase that I think the phrase is in Latin or something, but yes, it is in the divine code somewhere.
I've read so much here recently that it's not popping in my mind.
Yeah, it is in the divine code somewhere in terms of God's law, but it's the same really as this law.
Right.
And I know when the show's over, I'll remember what it is. I can't now.
We will come across it, Veronica. I'm sorry, but that is a great question. We will be getting to that because I know that is covered. Because, like I said, I've been studying and reading so much, and you kind of, that's why I highlight. So I know where it's at. I think it's in pink. Let me go over. It's in blue.
So, I had a similar question brought to me a few months back, basically dealing with the same thing. Someone had bought a couch at a rummage sale. The family that was having the rummage sale needed money. The couch belonged to the lady that was having the rummage sale's mother, who passed away. And the person who bought the couch, when they got home, they were cleaning it, and they found a rather large sum of money hidden in the couch. It was hidden like it was a safe. They were saving it.
Right.
And they asked me, what should I do with it? And I said, what is your heart telling you? And they took the money back to them. And it was a really touching time because they were trying to settle her mother's estate, had no money to do anything with. And this money covered everything and more. So I just want to put that in. I just said what you're, so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Does
Actually, there's another section I'm wanting to cover in chapter 16 where this may be it's called maintaining peace in society, forbidding acts similar to theft. It may have been in there where.
Okay, well maybe we can cover that.
It'll be in a couple of weeks because I don't think I'll finish this one over the next week or two because I kind of want to go through because we've been getting a lot of questions about finding lost items.
Yeah, we'll make a note of that because it's resonating on.
I agree with you.
Everybody goes to the rummage sale today. I mean, it's the way to shop, right?
Well, see, these are the things I really would like to just discuss in our class because this is the things that you and we can read some of this stuff and study and learn some of these laws, but it may not really pertain to us because we're not in that area as far as our life. We don't have to worry about it. We don't consider stealing or thieving at any time. It's not who we are in our character. But what if something just happens, we fall into a situation like that? These are the things we need to discuss because this is where our lives are. This is what Outreach Noah is about, is learning to live the day. That's why I want to talk about the flood here in a few weeks and Noah and how it pertains to what's the message for us today. the Bible, the Torah is not a Bible story book. These are the very words of the Creator for every generation. Matter of fact, he told Noah the covenant in Genesis chapter 9 is eternal between him and us and the earth. And so if it's eternal, we need to know where it fits with us today. And I kind of want to get into that in the future. But we all go to rummage sales, you know, and then there's questions when we find these things. Well, what's the proper, there's sometimes there's a legal aspect. Okay, you bought it, it was there, it's yours. That may be true, but what would be the moral thing to do?
So I know you're going to cover what Ronald was. Somebody just texted me and I actually put it in the text.
Yeah, if you find a $20 note in your front yard, what happens? Well, that's kind of with what the chapter we're looking at.
Yes.
Lost items. Let's look here at paragraph chat. What time is it? Yeah, paragraph 2. Some of this I may just skip tonight so we can kind of get to what we're discussing. Okay, let's go down to paragraph 3 on page 631 at the bottom. It says, if an object of money is found deserted in a public place, on a public place like a street, and there is no indication of whom the owner is, one can assume that the owner has declared it ownerless or has despaired of recovering it. That's the word I was looking for. He has despaired. If the owner has despaired of recovering it. Okay, I'm just jumping ahead. We'll have to clarify it later, but let's go back to Veronica's thing. You bought a piece of land, and what was it? What was it? How Veronica put it?
I'm coming. Sorry, I'm coming.
No problem.
What she said was if someone buys an item at a garage sale, finds a good sum of money in the item, does that money belong to the seller or to the buyer? Now, she also put a little note in there that this actually went to in front of a judge. Okay. And she just saw this TV show, and the judge told the buyer to give the money back to the seller. So that of course that's if it went to the judge, and that's what you need to follow the order of the judge. But let's look at it from the Torah standpoint here, as far as the legal aspect of it. It says if the owner has declared it ownerless and has despaired of recovering it. So if you think about it, someone's put something, you found something in a couch or whatever, and they're selling it. That means the owner, one, may not know it's there, or have forgotten it's there, or it's considered they don't remember where they put it. So it has been declared ownerless. They don't know where it's at. So it says, so if they despair to recover, therefore it is considered to be an ownerless object. It's been declared. The owner has no clue that it's there, so you're not taking it, so you're not stealing it from them. They themselves has declared it gone. So by the Torah law, which what we answer for not only here but in the world to come, is declared ownerless. This applies whether the object was abandoned willfully or by coercion. Or, for example, if a robber stole it and threw it into another place, so an owner despaired it. Guy goes in, he robs a watch from a jewelry store, he sees the police officers, he throws it out of his pocket. Somebody comes by and he finds it. The owner of the watch, the jewelry store, has talked to the police. They don't even think that they're going to recover it. They're going to file an insurance claim on it. Therefore, it became ownerless. And so the person finding it, it's theirs without the guilt of theft. Go ahead. Go ahead, Chrissy.
That was what I was trying to think of in general courts. I can't think of the Latin phrase, but it revolves around that the owner has despaired of recovering it. We say it's gone. That's it.
You declared it ownerless.
Yeah, and that is an actual legal term in common law or in the courts, and apparently that law, I think, dates back to, when cargoes used to go to the bottom of the sea and shipwrecks and things like that. It was a popular law that there was a term, you declared, well, it's gone, it's overboard, there's nothing to do about it, and then someone goes in and salvages it.
Right, and they're the rightful owner.
Yeah. But I can't think of the Latin term, but it's,
So, I knew it was there, and I knew I'd read it. So
I just want to tell you that this subject that we're talking about right here is really blowing the radio up. People are talking about. When I'm asked the question, so if you found the watch, and I understand what everybody's saying, and I do agree, but if you found the watch and you know it was the watch that was stolen,
you have the you have the opportunity. If you want to return it, you can return it. But if you want to keep it, it's not stealing.
Okay.
If the owner has declared it ownerless, they're going to file insurance claim, but if you find it, you still want to return it just out of the sake of being a kind person, you can do that.
This is a great subject.
But if the owner has said, well, I've already filed charges on, insurance on this, or we've declared it lost, we no longer own it. He has the right to just say, keep it. And you have the right to keep it, and you have the right to keep it without even wanting to return it. That's just the way that is. You come across something stolen, you don't know even if you did know who it was, and if it was over a period of time, you could take it back to the owner if you want to, but you're by Torah law, you legally don't have to.
Right.
By Torah law, and so your conscience should be clear.
So Thomas has got his hand up. I know it's got to be something to
Go
deal
ahead.
with the subject we're on here.
Yeah. If you know it's stolen, wouldn't it be the right thing to do to give it back?
If you come across an item laying in the alley that maybe a robber had thrown off, you may not know it's stolen. If you happen to know that, if you witnessed the theft, then you're getting into a moral obligation that, that it is stolen, then you need to take it back.
Okay, yeah. I can understand if you didn't know.
If you knew that it was stolen. What we're just talking about is if a robber discarded a stolen item and someone later comes across it and finds it, may not know where the item came from, then it's declared ownerless. And therefore you have
that. I understand. I thought you meant if you find it and you know it's stolen.
No, if you know it is
brought
stolen.
that up, so somebody brought it up.
Okay.
No, if you know that it is stolen, then
that crosses a different territory, doesn't
crossing into a different line.
Now Ronald's got his hand up too.
Well, you got to explain it to me. I think different.
I'll take it one step further. So you found the watch, but it's been listed as stolen with the police, and for some reason you have a dealing with the police and they notice the watch and know it's the stolen watch. Then they can be looking at you in this country as you're in possession of stolen goods.
Right. Well, if you find out that it is listed and in your country's laws or is like your laws, then you know you to obey your country's laws in that situation.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you wouldn't know this, but then you're identified as wearing stolen property by the police, and then all of a sudden you're in there being interrogated as to
you stole the watch.
Yes, possibly you stole the watch. You're involved with the thief,
right?
Or whatever, and so you're putting yourself in a precarious situation.
These are discussions.
If it's something like this, would only come about in a situation where something's like you can sort of tell that you found it and it's like brand new. Well, you sort of got to be two minds.
Right.
Did someone lose this, or is this being ditched as stolen goods? But
right.
just a little sideline that that you can put yourself in a precarious situation as well.
If you found something like that, then you probably need to do a little bit of research on it and see if it was.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to brag on it right off the bat. Right?
Yeah, don't get on Facebook and say, "Look what I found."
But 50% of people would.
Right.
And can we get on to my $20 somewhere?
This
I get a lot of rubbish blowing into my front yard for some reason. The wind just hits my house. And I cleaned up one day a few things, and I'd been weeding this garden bed and just about stripped it out this day. And the next day I came out, and there was a piece of paper I could see standing flat, upright, like that. And I went, oh, more rubbish again. I wish this had stopped happening. And I walked over, and it was a $20 note caught between in a rose bush.
Well, it's considered ownerless.
Yeah.
And so it's, one, it's already on your property, but it's declared ownerless in that situation.
Yeah, well, I looked up and down the road and across the road onto a service road in every direction that I could see, but there wasn't a soul to be seen. So it wasn't like it had just appeared in the last few minutes. It's been there possibly for hours, but I just thought I'd look up the road to see if anybody was walking past with their dog or something that may have lost it. But there was nothing there. Yeah.
On page 632, it continues. It says, in regard to a stolen object in general, it can be assumed that the victim despairs of recovering it, even if he had good identifying signs for it. For it is assumed that he does not know the identity of the person who stole it, and therefore he is not able to chase the person down and get the object back, which talks about in section 2, 4 above, where we were just at. However, if a robber stole from someone and the victim knows who it was, so he is able to report him to the police, and if it is a place where it is usual for police and judges to recover stolen objects from robbers, then it is assumed that the owner has not despaired. But if the robbers are not known, or it is known that it will be impossible to regain the stolen object from the robber, it is assumed that the victim despaired of recovering it. So this is talking about on Torah law on the issue of the owner of that object. If it's a situation where the owner has no clue whether he would get it back because he doesn't know who the robber is, he don't know where it went, and they have no clue where the property went, it is declared that they have disparaged of it because they don't know if they're going to get it back or not. So on that end, it's declared ownerless. But again, follow your local laws because that's what they're there for. They're there to help hold the peace. And something like that, does not really violate the law of God in returning stolen objects in that manner. Number 4 says a Gentile is not obligated to return a lost object that has not come into his hand. Let me say it again. A Gentile is not obligated to return a lost object that has not come into his hand. Therefore, if he sees a lost object, even if he knows who it belongs to, he is not required to return it to its rightful owner or to inform the owner that it is in a specific place, even though this will cause a loss to the owner. Likewise, a Gentile is permitted to cover his eyes from a lost object, ignore the fact that it is lost, until he hears later that the owner despaired of finding it, and he can then pick it up for himself. Meaning, what this is saying is, okay, you saw something laying there, you know who it belongs to, you don't have the obligation of running to the owner and saying, hey, here's your object, because you've not picked it up, you've not done. Matter of fact, you can just turn around and walk away from it. It doesn't sound right, but we're talking about theft and robbery, the acts of theft and robbery, and what you're held accountable to according to those definitions. In this definition, though you know something is lost, you know the owner, as long as you've not touched it, you've turned your back, you went on, you have no action of theft or robbery. If you picked it up and took it for yourself because the owner has not despaired of it yet, he's still looking for it, then it's theft. But if you even ignored it and walk off and you come back later and you find out that the owner just gave up on it, then it's despaired. Then you can take it and it's considered ownerless. But you still have the right, because you know who it belonged to even though they've declared it ownerless. You can return it, double check with them, say, I found this. Do you want it back? If not, you can keep it. But that's still up to you. You legally, by the Torah, you don't have to. So this is talking about legally the act of stealing, the act of theft itself. And by walking away from something that is ownerless, or that you know is someone that is lost, by turning your head and walking off, there's actually nothing wrong with that, because we're dealing with the act of theft and what you're held accountable for. You're not held accountable. It's not theft if you just keep walking on that. And so we're talking about the every act of theft is what we're talking about. Moreover, if a Gentile found a lost object, on the top of page of 633. Moreover, if a Gentile found a lost object in a public or ownerless area, meaning like in a public park or street, it's open, a common area, and did not know who the owner is, and he picked it up to acquire it for himself, then even if he found out later who the owner was, after the owner despaired of recovering the object, he is not obligated to return it. This is because the prohibition of severity of theft, like we were just discussing, by the Gentile only applies to stealing something from the land or the possession of the victim owns or rents. For example, his car, his vessel, his clothing, a pickpocket. If the lost object is located on a public ownerless property, then anyone who finds it is permissible, raises it up in order to acquire it, thinking him to himself that he is the owner, is not stealing from another property. And since he is not intended to acquire something that belongs to someone else, his act is, And since he is not intending to acquire something that belongs to someone else, his act is not immoral. So that's what we were just discussing. Like that $20 bill, it was on your land. It could have been out in the street, public street, and been laying there, and you can acquire it without the worrying being condemned for the act of theft, and it is not immoral. And I'm just going to stop there tonight since we're hitting here about 9 o'clock. We'll continue on next week on this subject. Seems like it's a good subject here for everyone. Anything else, Scotty, we can discuss? I know there's probably a ton.
I will tell you, this has been a pretty good, it's rubber meet the road stuff,
This is what we're supposed to be learning. Probably going to step on some toes here, but a lot of people feel like they're close to God because they're, in this mystical aurora and, hands raised, this, that, and crying and turn. No, you're closer to God when you live by these things. You're actually cleaving to the Creator when you're living by these things. Yes, we're supposed to praise and worship the Creator, but that's not where your closeness is at. That's your adoration. But your closeness, your cleaving, and your walking, like Noah says that Noah was righteous, morally pure. He walked with God. To walk with God is to live like this.
Yeah.
And that's our goal is to learn to walk with the Creator. And in that walk, you will praise and honor Him. But praising and honoring and walking around in rituals and different things like that is not the closeness that He desires from us in the nations. He wants us to live right before Him. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
I just wanted to throw a ball in from left field.
You're breaking up a little bit.
And can you hear me?
Now I can.
Can you hear me now?
Got you now.
Yep. I have. I'm going to do the coward thing and pass on a question to those more learned than me, because I don't know how to answer it. And now I had a young person approach me probably a couple of weeks ago. And asked, because they thought I was a wise woman. And this particular young person is a real devotee of a show on I think it's the History Channel called Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if any of you have heard about it. I did a brief and have a look-see, and it's about interdimensional, the possibility of there being interdimensional intelligence, and there's a lot of weird things happen on this Skinwalker Ranch, and they've they're doing all sorts of experiments and testing, and I believe it's quite intriguing. There has been a couple of places in Australia that have had similar things like cattle mutilation and stuff like this. Now, aside from all that, getting back to this young person's question, this person is a Noahide. Is it wrong? Is it possible that there can be any truth in that sort of interdimensional thing? Or is it wrong for him to even be watching it? Should that be something he should not watch? And I had to sort of squirm out of it a bit because I didn't want to give a wrong answer. I didn't want to act on my first impulse because I thought, hang on a minute, would it make any difference to my faith if I knew there was something else out there? No, I would still believe in that God's God no matter what.
Right.
So I'm lost. I don't know where to go to it. I would be really appreciative if you guys could give it some thought over the next week or so. And
well, as far as watching it, can you hear me? As far as watching it, that might be up to the person on that, because I mean, I find I've got my certain things that intrigue me. Like I love watching shows based on around the Middle Ages, the knights and the different things like that. Whether does it exist? I'm just going to go out and say yes. And how can I say that? How can I say yes? Because in Leviticus, the Creator warns Israel to not partake in and do any divinations, sorceries, or anything like that, nor raising the spirits, what you said of the dead and talking to the dead. Why does the Creator warn them not to do that? Do not get involved, because it works. It's wrong. Okay, how do we know that it works? I don't have the passage right off the top of my head, but in Isaiah, Scotty probably can look it up. But in Isaiah, it's mistranslated a lot in the English Bibles, but in Isaiah, the Creator says that He created everything, good and evil, light and darkness. It's there for a reason. It's there. It tests. Some people are tested by that. Others may not, like you may not be interested in it and you go on. But the Creator says He created the evil. He created the good. It's all there for our free will. Without it, we have no free will to make a choice. But He warned Israel, don't get into, water witching and sorceries. And, it's all listed there in Leviticus because it works. There's even among the Kabbalists who get into the mystical side of the Torah very, very deep, there are some warnings of areas you do not go. There have been some. It's recorded in ancient Jewish writings. I've been told about it firsthand that I think it was in the 1800s, there were some rabbis who ignored the warnings. They didn't live through it. Because they are not, and we are not. Once you start walking with the Creator, we don't mess with these areas. We're not commanded to, like Israel, it's broken down specifically. But I can guarantee you, we can line them up, those things up, with idolatry and blasphemy, and they could follow under the violation of those things. Because what it is, especially with idolatry, there's one source of life, and that is Hashem. One, it's it. There's one source of life, and even if you say, well, good luck, that's a form of there is a secondary source. And sorcery is a secondary source. These mystical things out there are secondary sources. But the Creator created these things as tests for our free will. but they're real. He warned anything he warned Israel do not do, when it comes to those things, that's because if they did, look at what Elijah did with the prophets of Baal. So it's all the same thing. That's why I can say, yes, I do believe it's real, because it is, because we're warned not to do it. If we're warned not to do something, then we know that we can do the opposite. I don't know if that helps any, Christy.
It does. So I guess my question is, is it okay for him to watch the television show as long as he understands he's not dabbling in it? I probably need to go and watch a bit of it to
here's
decide.
the thing. Here's the thing with that, Christy. He can watch, or that person, he or she, can watch it. There's not a commandment not to watch that. Okay.
No.
But on the other side, one of the things that we lack in our realm, in our Noahide realm, when I was studying with the rabbis for 7 years to join the Hebrew nation, one of the beautiful things, and see, the Gentiles don't get this. They think the Jews add to the law. They don't. They are actually commanded by their sages to build a fence around the Torah so they don't violate it. So we actually need to learn that we need to set some boundaries so we don't get into areas where we don't belong. So you could tell that person, no, you're not commanded not to watch that, but it might be a good idea to set up a fence and don't do it for your own personal sake. That's just, that's, go ahead, Ronald.
Yeah, I've just been looking it up. What it appears to be is that it's been on the go for 200 years watching this place. In a sense, things have been supposedly happening. And what the series seems to be about is the scientists investigating it with all sorts of modern equipment to try to validate or debunk what's going on there.
Right.
So it's sort of I suppose a docudrama, you could say, possibly, but they're just trying to analyse it's 512 acres in Utah. It's a farm ranch.
Yeah, I think I've seen that advertised.
Yeah. And so they're just, from what I can gather, they're just investigating to try and find out what, if anything, is really going on there,
right,
more than being something more nefarious, in a sense, I suppose, for want of a better word.
If it's investigating, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'd probably find something, because I've watched some stuff on
interest.
Well, on quantum physics, the study of quantum physics brings up areas that, that's kind of outside of our human realm, because it gets into that area of the study of energy and things like that. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm a science guy. I like Star Trek. So when I get to see stuff like that, I watch stuff on quantum physics and parallel universes. That's the areas I get interested in. So
look, I think, Terry, I'm going to nominate you, seeing you're a techie. You go and have a look at a couple of those shows on Skinwalker Ranch, and we'll be guided by your directions afterwards.
I can't be an expert, but I can be a drip under pressure.
So
you're welcome. I will investigate it for you. But just for the answer of could it be real? Yes, it can be, because anything like that God warns Israel, he didn't warn us, but he did warn Israel because of the priest. And when you look at this, the spiritual things that God warned Israel about, we can learn some things from that.
So, okay, Thomas has got his hand up.
All right, Thomas.
I would say Terry explained that very well, because that's just about the same way that Basak Sherbro explained it to me, because I used to be a pagan, not a Christian pagan, but a witch pagan for most of my life. I've seen some things that will blow your mind. Like necromancers. That's what I think. If there was a man named Jesus, that's what he was, because he come out of Egypt. That's where a lot of them came. But yeah, that stuff is real, and Hashem created it.
Hey, I mean, I experienced my own things, and I know Scotty did too, because we were both former Pentecostal preachers, and I experienced some things in the spiritual realm that that deceived me. It did, because it allowed me to keep believing certain things that I did. But when I started studying the Torah, I discovered really quick, I can't denounce what actually happened. When something grabs you and throws you across the room, you can't say that didn't happen. So what you got to do is find the answer. And the answer was, I was walking in a place where I wasn't supposed to be, and Hashem allowed that to happen. So things do happen in the spiritual realm, but we got to stay away from a lot of that, because we live in the here and the now, and our commandments teaches us how to walk that gravel road, that paved road. The rubber meets the road. That is what the Torah is for us. We're not even, I don't even worry about the afterlife. A lot of people, well, I want to go to heaven. I don't worry about that. If I'm walking with God, then he has my soul in his hand. Ezekiel 18:4, he owns my soul. And as long as I'm walking the best of my ability with him, I don't worry about the afterlife, because it's going to take care of itself. My job is to take care of the here and the now. I mean, that's what Noah did. And look, he we see what happened with Noah. It's the reason why I want to talk about him here in the future a little bit more. We'll get back into discussing him a little bit. But go ahead, Scotty.
Amy Willer's got her hand up.
Where's Amy? I think she moved. She was on the bottom down here. Now I see her.
I put it what Ron said, that in Waterett, the natives know about that area, but they live there. And they warn people, don't mess with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in agreement with the the Kabbalah thing, the book.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mess with that. And don't mess with in water ranch. There are a lot of things there that can harm you. We don't understand it. And, well, anyway,
I mean, you look at when Israel went into the land, they were told to destroy everything from the Canaanites, because the Canaanites got into a lot of that. God doesn't want that. Eventually, that stuff will be out of the lands. When the whole earth is full with the knowledge of God, none of that will exist anymore. Only the knowledge of God.
So I've been sitting here debating whether I should say this or not.
Okay, go ahead,
So
Scott.
I'm about to get myself in trouble.
Go ahead.
So, being from my past, where I've been, I've had the privilege of being presented with questions dealing with things of that nature. I'm going to say, like, I even hate to say it now, like evil spirits and demonic forces and things of that nature. And I remember this one couple who was very tormented. They were tormented in their mind. It was so tormenting, it was moving into their children. So I want to say, your mind is a powerful thing, and it can create, even though there's nothing there, if your mind can influence your eyes to see things that's not there. Your mind can influence it. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Things
you're saying it right.
That's not really being said. And so I remember this one couple was talking to me, and they started getting these books to try to find out about it. They started watching these videos to find out more about it. And my first thing I told them was the first thing you need to do is throw away the books, quit reading them, quit listening to people who are influencing you with the regards that, is this real? Could this be real? This is what these others are experiencing, because obviously you're not equipped to handle it. And what broke it with them was they were not seeing how it was affecting their children until I kind of said, look, do you want your kids to live like this the rest of their life out? And so that kind of broke it. It took a little while, but the first thing they had to do is stop allowing that to come in. That's the only way I know how to say it. Stop allowing it to come in, and then stop recognizing it as a real influence in your life. God is the real influence in your life. So I hope I said that correct.
Right.
I could say some other stuff, but I don't want to say anything that's a negative toward any type of one religion. You know, we can do that. We can get in that, and we don't do that. We're bringing healing to the nations
right. through the Torah.
Terry and I was talking the other day. How do you know a counterfeit thing? You study the real thing.
Yeah, that's how the FBI, they study they still study the real money. So when they come across the fake, it sticks out. They don't study fake because there's so many fakes.
Yeah.
Which fake do you study?
Yeah.
Because if you study one fake, you're going to miss another fake. So what you do is you study the real thing. Yeah. And then all fakes will be revealed.
Well, Terry, I seen you look for a book there. Are you fixing to read?
All right. And bouncing off what you're saying and what you were saying, there's two things here. I want to leave with the group tonight because it's been a really good discussion, because this is stuff we deal with every day, and that's what we got. We need to study. We don't need to study these things that doesn't affect us. We need to know what we're dealing with every day and learning how the Creator wants us to walk in our dealings. Okay, dealing with there's something. I don't have the passage up right here. You can go look at it, and it's written a little bit different in English in different ways. But the Creator made a very, very profound statement about mankind in the dealings with the Tower of Babel. And I'm going to paraphrase it. He says, whatever man sets his mind to do, he will accomplish it. That's powerful. That comes from the Creator who made the human mind. You know, I was sharing with some before the class. I'm reading a book that my daughter's got me for my birthday, where a guy went in 2019 and interviewed the last 4 astronauts that walked on the moon and stuff, and went around the earth, and it's got it's stuff about the wives. It breaks it down. I just started the section on leadership, and talking about whatever man sets his mind to do, he'll accomplish it. And I read this last night, and it's just, I've had it on my mind all day. One of the men that worked in the Apollo program actually worked with NASA on up through the space shuttle program, and he was speaking at a technology conference, and they were talking about all the technologies. And then there was a subject that was discussed on the Saturn V, the rocket that took man to the moon, and all the different technologies. And so you had people talk, the guys who built the engines was talking about the engines, and you had the computer guys talking about the computers. Well, this guy pulls it up at the end, and he said there's one technology that isn't being discussed, and it is the technology of management. The Saturn V rocket had 5.6 million parts. There was 400,000 engineers and scientists and 20,000 contractors across the country, the United States, that was involved with the manufacturing parts of the rocket. They had a deadline. They had to make the parts and get the parts to a specific place, put this rocket together, and get it ready for launch. Everything happened. All 400,000 engineers, scientists, and 20,000 contractors got everything built. Every deadline was met. And the rocket was launched on schedule and did everything it was designed to do without flaw. And they said this is one of the greatest marvels of the United States, is this management system that brought this together. 4,000 engineers and 400,000 engineers and scientists and 20,000 contractors building 5.6 million parts and putting it together and shooting it up to the moon with men sitting on top of it. Whatever man sets his mind to do, he will accomplish it. And I thought that it just blows me away. But then on the other side, I was thinking today, oh, there's another side. Because, see, this happened in 1969. So I got to thinking today at work. I'm like, what else was going on in 1969 besides this great marvel? The evil side of man, because Vietnam was going on. We had such a great accomplishment. And then the evil side of man, dealing with the wars in Vietnam and the things that were going on in the same years. So to say that, when we're dealing with all these sorceries and we got people that are involved and we're dealing with these religions where we get involved with the spirit worlds and things that we've all done, how can we fix that? It's told to us in Psalms chapter 19 and verse 8. The Torah of the eternal, which is what we study, our part of the Torah. The Torah of the eternal is perfect. It's perfect. It's not lacking. It's not weak. It's perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the eternal is faithful, making wise the simple man. The Torah is perfect, restoring the soul. That's how we fix. We fix ourselves, we fix our world through a perfect Torah. The Torah is means instructions. They're instructions of the Creator. So regardless if it's physical health, whether it's dealing with your neighbor, your co-workers, your family members, stealing, thieving, murder, improper sex, improper treatment of the earth and its resources. The way you fix the earth and the way you fix yourself is through a perfect Torah, because it restores it. It restores the soul. Anything else, Scotty?
Okay, just a couple things.
That's fine.
We're going to go to 9:30.
That's fine if that's okay with everybody else.
So first thing, I did get a text back from Fred and his mother. We just had Fred's mother on our blessed memory. I do want to put this in there first before I read what I'm going to read. Is Johnny Joe Rawls. Blessed memory tzedakah was given for her tonight. So I want to read something before we come to a complete close from what Terry was referring to earlier, but I want to read just a little bit more. I'm going to break right in the middle of the text. Isaiah 45 and 5 is what this app has it on. Isaiah 45 and 5. I am Hashem, and there is none else. Beside me there is no God. I have girded thee, though thou hast not known me. So that means he takes care of you even though you didn't even recognize him. That they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am Hashem, and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I am Hashem. Thou that doth all these things. I am Hashem that doth all these things. I love this 8th verse, and I'm going to stop after this one. Drop down, ye heavens, from above, and let the skies pour down righteousness. Let the earth open, that they may bring forth salvation, and let her cause righteousness to spring up together. I, Hashem, have created it. So I just want to throw that in there. So
yeah, that's one of my favorite passages, because I memorized the Hebrew when I was studying Hebrew on that. Ani Hashem v'ein od. I am Hashem and there is no other.
Yeah.
And so there's sometimes I actually will kind of hum that. I'll be at work, Ani Hashem v'ein od. And because you've got to remind yourself, it's Hashem and there is no other. Meaning, okay, the question was asked about this stuff going on at this ranch. That doesn't mean that there is another separate force. That's idolatry when you say that. That force is coming from the Creator for a reason, because he said he made it. He does it all. He says it right there in the passage. Scott says, I do this all. And so
I love the way it talks about it coming down like rain.
Right.
If I can just imagine that, I've pictured that when I was reading it, that righteousness comes down and it springs up. And that's what I want to look for.
Well, if you think about this, if we look at the analogy that the Creator gives us, because he gives us a physical, something we can relate to, rain. Think of a spring rain as it comes down. And the earth, it's drinking it up. And we see all that life coming up. You said it comes down, then it springs up. But think about what it's doing too, especially if you're here in Chattanooga. When you look outside, you it's foggy. No, it fog's green. It's the pollen down here. It covers it. But that rain cleans the atmosphere. It cleans it. You can smell the rain. You can smell it. And you can smell how clean the atmosphere is. So it cleans it where you can breathe good. And it brings life. And that righteousness is talking about how I find it interesting. He uses the term rain in this subject. Because, with the flood, it was to destroy the wicked. Here it is to give life to the righteous.
Yeah. All right, Terry, I'm going to bring us to a close.
All righty.
We've been at it about an hour 29. So we want to thank everybody for being with us here in the Zoom room. And as always, it's greatly appreciated. Those of you that are listening by Power of Faith Radio, we want to thank and welcome you. Please remember next week, Wednesday night, Eastern Standard Time, New York time. Come on back and be with us. Those of you that have been watching by A Simple Walk, that is a public group, so you can share that video with all your social media platforms and comment, ask questions. Those of you that have been watching or watch in B'nai Noach Fellowship, we thank you so much. Please ask those questions. And of course, it's brought to you by Outreach Noah. You can find us two ways. You can go to Outreach Noah YouTube channel, and this video will be uploaded there. You can share it with all your social media platforms. Subscribe to that channel. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and email us at outreachnoah@gmail.com. And then you can also find our webpage, Outreach Noah. Did I get that right?
Yep, outreachnoah.com.
The email address is outreachnoah@gmail.com. And the website is outreachnoah.com. Okay, I got all that in. Whew. So all right. And again, I want to say, Chrissy, thank you for the videos you've been putting up. You can find Chrissy Seaton's at My Noahide Family. Go to the YouTube channel, find it. Now, Chrissy, do you have links there on your YouTube channel, how they can find other in-depth information from other channels that you're affiliated with?
If there's a link, I want them to, I put a link up if I can, to refer them to similar things. But it's amazing, funny you should mention that, because I I've always put a link up to my website, because on the website, even though it's a very plain, ordinary, line by line one, but all my recommendations I put there, like you guys, Ask Noah, places that I recommend. And I must check, I don't know, I'll check whether I've got your platforms up there now, that since you've created those others. But I'm happy to recommend people. Yeah, pass it on to me if you think there's anything I should recommend. Or
is Dr. Or Rabbi Cowan doing a class that's maybe some
Yeah,
people
he
can
does.
join in on? Or
Yes, listen, he does one every Sunday, around 10 o'clock Australian time, thereabouts.
And
I
that's
missed this
Saturday.
last one
That's
because
Saturday.
I got
10:30.
it's Sunday. What time? Ronald, you give the times. I got it all mixed up.
It's it's Sunday 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So that
It'll be
would
Saturday here.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
Saturday. Let's see.
Night.
I'll quickly work this out. Let's see. 10:30 would be 10. You're Eastern, aren't you? Yes. That
Yeah.
would be 7 p.m. the night before.
Yeah.
So that'd be Saturday 7 p.m. would be 10. So it'd be 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday for you.
Now there's Eastern, there's Mountain, and then Eastern.
Yeah,
Standard Time.
yeah, Mountain's different. It's a fair bit different, isn't it? It's another couple of hours Mountain time.
Yeah.
I used to ring Mountain time to buy stuff from Cabela's.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so it'd be 7:30 Saturday night. It's 10:30 Sunday our time.
Okay.
Yeah. But in a week or so that will change, because in a couple of weeks we'll go out of daylight saving back to our normal winter time. So I'll re-say it then. Chrissy's all right. It goes back to Chrissy's time. She's the only state in Australia that doesn't go to daylight saving.
God's time.
God's
time.
Yeah, I wish they would get that straight, because I got so many numbers and scribbles on my clock I can't read it anymore. So.
You want to put up what I put up on the screen? I've got about 8 places here, and that had in red the other day, reminding me when the daylight saving stops for the different parts of America.
Yeah. I'm like Chrissy.
Or starts, actually. It was starting, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, all right, everybody.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and sign off, and we will see everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.